I like your mustache. It's really stylish.
It took.
It's raw. It's uncensored. It's live. 24/7. It's chaoticradio.com. It's raw. It's uncensored. It's live. 24/7.
Good morning, Montclair, Rancho Cucamonga, Inland Empire,
and all the ships at sea.
Just an hour from wherever you are. If you're in Hollywood, L.A., Los Angeles.
You're on the Jeff and Janki Show, coming to you live on Chaotic Radio out of Montclair, California. Stay downwind, partner.
Hey, good morning, chum. How you doing?
Not battled, buddy.
Yeah, it's been a while since we did a show.
We've been on hiatus, but we are back, roaring to go, and raring to introduce our guest.
Yes, we have the most badass Lee Paul.
Lee Paul's a kid. Well, first of all, you didn't even set the guy up, you moron. Lee Paul is a famous character actor who's played a lot of heavies. Usually he's the jerk, the bully, the thug, the henchman, the gunsel, on literally hundreds of shows, including...
Well, not hundreds, but close.
Linda Carter's Wonder Woman, Cannon, 1,000 shows. Come on, tell us about that, Lee Paul. How tall are you?
Well, compared to you, I'm a shrimp boat.
I apologize.
I'm 6'5.5". I tell everybody I'm 5'17.5". And you know what? A lot of people can't figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, I remember I was on an audition, and Richard Mall, Bull from Night Court.
I know. I remember his name too. Yeah.
And I've been hearing for years, oh my God, Richard Mall is 7 feet tall, 7 feet tall. And I'm towering over him. And I'm like, I'm only 6'9", you know what I mean? And I looked at Mall and I go, you're not 7 feet tall. And he laughs and whispers to me, he goes, in a town where the average man is 5'5" to 5'8", I'm 7 feet tall. And if you watch Night Court reruns, he's the same height. I think he's 6'6". He's the same height as John Larroquette. If you watch Night Court, they'll keep the two actors as far apart in the scenes from each other because Larroquette's just as tall as him. You know?
Well, you know, you're either too tall or too short or too thin. Or
right.
It's always something.
It is, you know. And what got you into it? Where are you from? Talk to us.
Well, I'm from New York. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
What part of the...
I'm from Brooklyn.
Wow.
Brooklyn, wow.
I went
Birthplace of Lou Ferrigno.
I went to the garbage can of the school system, PS8, right under the Brooklyn Bridge.
Really?
Right.
Wow.
And on a bad day, you could smell the wharf, of course. You know.
Wow. From the Hudson?
No, the East River.
Wow.
Right. Now, what happened is Squibb, remember the Squibb was a big name in pharmaceuticals in those days, and they had a thing called Squibb Hill, which was going down toward the docks, and we used to ride our sleds down that in the wintertime. It was something else.
Wow.
But from PS8, I think I was the first and only person probably that ever was accepted to Bronx High School of Science and Erasmus and Brooklyn Tech. Now, in those days, you had to take actually a test to get into a public high school, those schools. Wow. And in fact, the last year of high school, I did college work. So when I got a scholarship into Ohio, Marietta College in Marietta, Ohio, and I'll go into that if you want.
Please.
The first year, I had already done everything. I'd already gone through all the courses because Brooklyn Tech was so advanced for the time. So that was kind of really much fun. Now, here's the truth. And today we're going to tell the truth. When I was 12, I had a mentor who took me all over the world, and I was on one of the first white expeditions. You have to say white carefully today. One of the first white expeditions to Angel Falls, the highest waterfalls in the world in Venezuela. Over 4,000 feet drop.
That's oh man.
In what they call the Grand Sabana, the Orinoco River starts there. And we were trying to find a plane that had landed in 1935 by a pilot named Jimmy Angel. He had brought a prospector to the top of Auyen Tepui, Devil's Mountain. Wow. And they were picking up raw diamonds and rubies and stuff that were on the top,
Yeah.
and stuffing their pockets with all this stuff. And he said, hell, he's getting all this. I'm going to come back and get some for me. And he had an aluminum plane called the Flamingo. Now, the next year, he flies into Ollantaytambo and crashes because it's all potted and so couldn't land properly. And he took 2.5 weeks climbing off the mountain
Wow.
to civilization because it's right in the. In fact,
Wow.
when we went there, Venezuela always is having problems. They're having problems today. They've had problems in the 50s. And there was always juntas going on where the military was taking over. You had to bring salt with you for the headhunters
Wow.
because salt was more precious than gold. And so what happens, we all carried 5 pounds of salt with us.
Wow.
Anyway, so what
You
happened,
actually met headhunters.
real headhunters.
Wow.
They had to use that to preserve and shrink the head. right?
What I don't know where, yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you,
Why do I know this shit?
salt was big time for them. So anyway, what happened is that he gets off the mountain, but he leaves a note in the plane saying that he's trying to get back to civilization. Well, we were on this trip, and I was like 16 or 17, 15, 16. Porter, I was just there because I was big and could carry luggage. And we were trying to climb up this mountain. Now, they have 700 inches of rain a year
Wow.
in that location. That's why it's a jungle. And
Literally.
What happened is we never made it. We slipped and slid for a week trying to climb up this mountain.
Wow.
And the weather was so bad and helicopters were so new that they didn't fly in there. The only way you could get up there. Anyway, a couple of years later, a French expedition actually got to the plane and found the note and took out the radio from that plane. Now, I don't even remember why we started this story, but that is the story about
Ollantaytambo.
Ollantaytambo. And why did we start this story? Tell me.
Because that was what got you into acting. I mean, you were just a kid, right?
Oh,
I mean,
well.
how did you get out of there?
No. Well, we got out all right, but what a digression that is. And I apologize. But
We got 2 hours to fill, baby. Don't worry about it.
But what happened was that I wound up getting a scholarship to Marietta, Ohio. Now, Marietta, Ohio, and Marietta College is where it's like 65 miles from Titusville, Pennsylvania, where the oil was first found in America. In other words, they had a drill that went down like 85 feet and they struck oil.
Wow.
And that was what the
That's
oil.
shallow. Yeah.
Shallow. Now, what happened was I go from Brooklyn Tech to Marietta College on a scholarship, but in the chemistry department. Now, I go there. I've done all the experiments already. Life is boring to me. And I said, what can I do? And because I'm always in a lab. You look like you want to say something.
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. So I said, how can I get out of the lab? And it turns out the petroleum engineering department took field trips. I said, hey, okay. So I switched, and they were glad to help, to take me on. Now, the story about that is that my senior year, I didn't have any money to go back to New York. My family was, let's be honest, poor, badass poor, okay? But this mentor had helped me, and he put me through school. So now in my senior year, over the Christmas holiday, I don't know what to do because I can't afford to go home. So I decided as a project to build what they call a spring pole drilling rig, which is how they used to drill. They'd get a sapling, a long sapling, and they'd put a bit on the bottom with a rope, and they'd push the sapling up, and the sapling would snap down, and it would slowly drill. Well, they hadn't had a spring pole drill working in Ohio in 100 years. And guess what? I was not the only one. I had a crew of other guys who couldn't afford to go home, and we all put this together. Before we got it finished, all the old coots that were in the oil fields years before heard about it, and they came around to be involved. Now, we had a 55-gallon barrel with wood and charcoal that we kept warm because it was bloody cold
Wow.
in December in Ohio, and they would come around, chew tobacco, and spit on the red hot barrel. Psst, I can still remember the psst, and they all took turns playing with this drill. Well, when the petroleum engine department came back after the Christmas holiday, I had this big ass hole in the middle of the lawn in front of the petroleum binny. They had a shit fit. They couldn't believe what I had damaged there. But what an experience! They had the old Mackinaws, and they had, some of the guys had the beards and the mustaches, and they were reliving their past, and it was a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Did you actually pull up some oil?
Oh no, no. All we got was rocks. But now I got to get back to the story about the acting.
Yeah, where did that come
so
from?
what happens? I'm in the petroleum engineer department, and it's okay, and it's fun. I'm going out, and I see these beautiful women running around. Now, I'm from Brooklyn. I'm a young guy, so I chase one of these women, young girls at that time, into the theater department.
Wow.
Now I'm saying, whoa, what's this? And they're running around in their skivvies and so forth and doing shows. I said, hey, this looks like some fun. So I found out they were doing a show. It was called Amal and the Night Visitor by Menotti, I think it is. I'm not sure. Your audience will correct me. But it happened to be a singing operetta, and I didn't sing. And it only had one line for this Mr. Gabino, one line to sing. But I didn't give a damn. I wanted to get next to this broad, pardon my expression.
Oh, no.
So I went up to the voice guy. I said, I'm going to be in your play. And he was a little short guy, and I'm big, and I'm loud, and I'm from Brooklyn. He said, oh, sure, no problem. Well, sure as hell, I get in the play, and I might be able to remember the one singing line. Let me see if I can do it. There, don't cry. You know that he's happier now than if he had lived. Now, what happened is that our son had died, and we had gone to this medium to try to talk to our son. Okay. Now we get applause, and I'm liking the lights and the applause, and I'm forgetting about the girl. And finally, on one of the curtain calls, she gets in front with her because she was really the lead. I only had the one line, and I said, "Excuse me, you're in my light," and I pushed her out of the way. That was the start of show business.
Wow.
And that's how.
Once the broad's blocking your key light, it's all over.
That's it. So now what happens, I get a scholarship, and I get the #1 job from the petroleum department because I'm #1 in the class. I mean, I was a wunderkind. The same mentor that...
What's his name, by the way? You mentioned him a couple times.
His name is David Blossom, and the Blossom family owned, I think it was called Goat Island, which was the little island before Niagara Falls.
I've heard of Goat Island.
Have you?
Yeah.
His family owned that. Anyway,
Wow.
he never married, and finally, when his mother died after 70 years, he married his secretary at 80 or something like that. But he was a philanthropist, and I was in the Boy Scouts. The Boy Scouts today are now Boys and Girl Scouts.
Yeah. My 8-year-old nephew loves that, by the way.
Well, I mean, if Biden has to watch out for everything, so do we.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But anyway,
Yeah, but he's a creep.
I don't know
that shot of him with the 7-year-old girl just creeped me out.
I didn't see it.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't see it.
Smell. You don't
different.
smell.
Scouting was different back then.
You don't smell a 7-year-old girl's hair. That's creepy. You know?
Okay. Now, so what happens is he's a civil engineer, and he wants me to be an engineer because I had the smarts, and he was going to put me through school.
Oh no!
So what happens is that he mentored me and put me through school, and I wound up, unfortunately, finding show business. I went with Schlumberger, which is still a worldwide oil organization, and they sent me to Williston, North Dakota. Now, in those days, all there was cows and oil wells.
Wilburton or Wilmington?
Williston.
Oh, Williston.
And today, it's in the shale business. It's big time again.
Oh, so with the fracking and all that, right? Okay.
North Dakota is very, very big now. But in the 60s, when I graduated in 1960, 61 or whatever, all there were cows and oil wells. So I went there as a young petroleum engineer. Okay? Now I'm out there in the middle, in 19 degrees below zero, in a little shed, working with these nuclear tools, trying to discern permeability and porosity of these developing layers to see if the wells that they were going to be drilling were going to produce enough oil to make them profitable. So even when I found something really great, there was nobody there, just me. I applauded for myself because nobody cared. Now, guess what? 3 months after I get the job, I get called into the boss. He says, I got to tell you something. You're telling too many jokes.
Wow.
I said, what do you mean? He said, you don't understand. The guys that own the oil patch, they're the jokesters if they want to be. You can't be funnier than them.
Oh, no.
I said,
Wow.
I don't know what to do. He said,
Is that petty? They were that petty?
You might want to reconsider. So I left. I went, they gave me a New York Broadway or bust party, and I got out of Williston, because all we did in Williston, North Dakota, was order hi-fi equipment from Chicago that we never opened because we were too busy trying to figure out what the hell we were going to do with our life. I mean, it was really a dead-end job, and and it kind of saved me, and that's why I got into show business. I can go on, but I don't know how many hours we have. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I finally got to New York, and this is a really good story. Okay, I got to New York. I'm at home living with my parents. My father's not happy.
His son, the engineer, is now his son, the unemployed actor.
That's right. Yeah, the worst thing, right? That's what he told me. But he was a checker on the docks. Now, he was not Italian, which was amazing because the mob ran everything.
Wow.
But
we're talking about like the Fulton Fish Market, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a heavy mob. Yeah.
Okay. And they, in other words, when a boat came in with bananas, one for the delivery, one for the boys. One for the delivery, one for the boys. Anyway, he was a checker. He would check things and get out. And he told me a lot of stories about he heard the concrete shoes, guys getting dumped into the river.
Wow.
Now, the story is that he would tell everybody privately later on that, hey, my son's an actor. He's in Hollywood. But to me, I was a bum because he really didn't want me to be an actor, and neither did my mentor. In fact, when I left,
he must have been heartbroken.
Well, he wanted a Pygmalion. He wanted to create his own
double.
person.
Yeah.
So he gave me these tests at the Testing and Advisement Center. I took 12 hours of tests, and I'm a smartass in a sense. I warped the tests to make me come out to be an engineer. And he was tickled to death.
Oh, no.
And then he put me through school. But when I finally quit and went into show business, that was the end of it.
Oh, no. Oh, so he almost disowned you then? Basically.
Oh, he did disown me.
Wow.
He did disown me. But let me tell you, if it wasn't for him, I would never have had my education. I never would have seen the things that I saw and go around the world. It was a marvelous man, and he's long gone. In fact, as you get my age, which is now 79, but my on-camera age is 60 to 71.
Yeah,
folks.
you don't want to screw that up.
Right.
His range is 61 to 75.
No, 60 to 71.
Oh, sorry, 60 to 71.
But the truth is, you're only as old. We just talked about that before we were on the air.
We
You're
want to
only
make sure
as
you're
old as you look.
When Universal does the new Hack Ramsey, we'll want you ready to go in. Go on.
I'm available. In fact, I just got a new agent. Am I allowed to mention the agency?
Please.
The Brogan Agency, Brogan.
I've heard of Brogan.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm with QGMD.
Are you? Mm-hmm. See, it's all one big happy.
Yeah.
So what happened is I got into the theater department, and then I got to New York, and my father, and that was the story I wanted to bring about. I decided that I heard that Gregory Peck had been discovered at Radio City Music Hall as an usher. Wow. It was a lie. It was a lie. And we could spend 5 days talking about Radio City Music Hall.
That's hilarious. You actually work there?
So I went there and became an usher. In fact, one of the great, I saw Breakfast at Tiffany 27 times and fell in love with Hepburn all those times.
George Papard, a fine Detroit actor.
Right.
And Polish.
And Polish. In fact, normally I have what I call a George Papard avocado haircut.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looks good. It looks good.
So the point is that I also ushered in Nancy Kwong from the world of Susie Wong because I was big and I got her through the crowd. So
Wow.
Well, it turns out it was a lie, but it was a wonderful experience, and I saw a lot of great films for nothing. So my father one day says, hope I'm not screwing. I did.
Can we hear you?
Oh, no, here, this one.
Oh, is this one?
Yeah. I just unplugged my mic. I don't know.
Hey,
I
we're
can't
on
hear
to the
anymore.
rescue. Hold
I
on.
can't
You
hear.
can't hear. So
You can't hear. Anyway,
Jeff the genius plugged in the wrong one.
there it is. Okay. So what happened is my husband, my father says to me, "How come you're not in the military?" And I said casually, "I guess they don't know where I am." Well, the next week, they knew where I was. He turned me in.
Wow.
So
he's sending you to Korea because you don't want to be an engineer.
No, wait a second. We get to Korea in a second. So what happens is I get drafted in the Army. Now, I don't want to be in the Army. Okay, I don't even want to be in the military. It's not that I'm anti-democratic or anti-American. I just didn't want to do that.
Dodging bullets for 4 years doesn't sound like much fun.
Not much fun. So the point is that I walk into an Air Force recruiting station, and I said, "I want to join the Air Force." And the guy says, "Great, great." And I said, "There's only one problem." He said, "What?" "I've just been drafted. I'm in the Army." He said, "Nah, no problem." So they sent me to ROTC.
Wow.
They switched that around. Now, I go to ROTC, I become an officer. The only reason I managed to get through officers training is that I bought an old Jaguar, and I have one now. It's sitting out there.
Wow,
The Jaguars have been the boon, the bane. Bane is bad, right? Bane is bad?
Bane, yeah.
The bane of my life. I've had 3 Jaguars that started off with love affairs and wound up stabbing me in the heart.
Oh.
This was the first one. Now, in order to pay for the Jaguar, I had to stay with the first lieutenant's pay grade.
Oh, no.
And if they busted me out of ROTC, I would go to staff sergeant and couldn't afford the car. So I shaped up enough to get through that. And what happened?
Wow.
So now I'm almost getting ready to Hollywood, So I go there, I go to ROTC, and they send me to Reno, Nevada, Stead Air Force Base, for what they call SAGE, Semi-Automatic Ground Environment. It was the first computers that had people bringing planes together so they could shoot each other down. Now today,
Oh, that's crazy.
today they have civilian controllers that do the opposite. They're trying to keep them apart.
Yeah.
It's a very stressful job. Those guys should be paid big time. Unbelievable pressure. But anyway, so here I am in Reno, in Sage, and I'm saying, God, I got to find something to do. Well, it turned out there was a local radio station called KOLO Channel 8 in Reno, Nevada. And I got involved with them and wound up doing a late-night talk show, introducing the acts from some of the hotels like the Mapes and some of the hotels in Reno. Wow. And I was a good advocate for the Air Force because I was talking Air Force stuff too.
Clean cut and all that.
All that great. So here I've got that going on, and I got 2 more stories, and then I'll let you talk a minute.
No, we're enjoying them. Keep going.
So the story is I'm at KOLO TV at night, and we're introducing the show. So I'll have to tell you how it ends. It ends because one of the dancers or one of the lead girls had this flimsy dress on, and she leans over, and her breast pops out, and the cameraman just instinctively goes zoom, and we all got fired.
Wow.
So what do they call it today? They call it today a malfunction.
Right, wardrobe
A
malfunction.
wardrobe
malfunction.
Okay. Anyway,
Did he even keep you abreast of the situation?
abreast of the situation. Now you mentioned that about Linda Carter, and by the way, I didn't see them.
No, you saw them in the he winked.
Right.
You saw them in another tall actor I'd interviewed told me, I'm blanking on his name. He was on Wagon Train. Denny
Moore.
Denny Miller.
Miller.
Yeah, Denny Miller told me the hard part on being on Wonder Woman, he said, when Linda Carter had to save him in like 3 different episodes, he said when Linda Carter leaned over you, that brass eagle on the front of her Wonder Woman costume, he said would rip into your chest and hurt like hell because the bird was always poking out.
Oh wow! I did a Wonder Woman, and I also was with Denny Miller in a show called Island at the Top of the World.
Oh, we were
With
just
Walt
talking about
Disney.
that.
We're talking about this.
I
now
was a
here.
kid and I went and saw that movie in the theater.
I had one line, as I remember: "Vi lete out minta fenutis." We looked everywhere, but we couldn't find him. That's old Norwegian. Now I remember that, and I can't remember yesterday.
You were leader of the archers on it.
Yes.
That's yours. Kill it.
Anyway, the point is, I'm there, and you went to Denny Miller, and I went back.
Oh, yeah,
What was
so-
the last thing I talked about?
You were talking about 2 more stories, and then we'll get to acting.
But you didn't
Her boobs fell out and
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys got
Her
fired.
boob fell out, and you
Okay.
guys got fired. How could you forget where you were on that? That's your best story.
I don't forget about boobs, I'll tell you.
So the next thing is
It's
that
ingrained in us.
the next thing I auditioned for Serenade in Blue, which was like the Air Force USO.
Oh, okay.
And we toured around the country, and I became I continued with my singing and training. So I became the MC and the singer for the Serenade in Blue. Now, in the meantime, Serenade in Blue is another branch of the Air Force. I was supposed to be in Air Defense Command. And finally, one colonel or general said, "Where the hell is this guy Kroll?" Because my name was Paul Kroll,
Wow.
not Lee Paul. My real name is Paul Lee Kroll.
Really?
But Kroll could be spelled too many ways.
K-R-U-L, right?
No, it's K-R-O-L-L. That kind
Like
of
Nick Kroll.
Yeah.
that confusion. So,
Is that Polish? What is that?
well, it's part of Polish. It's
Jak
half-
Shamash.
No, I don't even speak it, but it's half of Kulikovsky. So when my family came over from Ellis Island, they said, "What's your name?" K-R-O-L-L. Oh, that's enough. Next, and it became Kroll.
Wow.
So what happened is I was Lee Paul. Okay. Now I've already lost the trend again. We were just saying what happened. Oh, I'm in the military, and what happens? I go on Serenade in Blue, and the general says, "Where the hell is this guy, Kroll?" Well, he's in Tennessee or whatever. Get him back here. So they take me out of that and they bring me back. Okay. So I now finish my little stead there, and they send me as retribution to King Salmon, Alaska. Now, Bob Hope wrote a book about it, where King Salmon, Alaska is. We're 300 miles from the Russian border, okay? And we play cat and dog fighter games with the Russians. Now, I'm underground at King Salmon, Alaska, and I'm fighting the mosquitoes, which are really, really big.
In Alaska?
Oh my God!
I thought mosquitoes didn't survive in the snow.
Oh God, they're huge. Well, they don't, but when they come in the spring, they carry you away. Those jokes about 17 mosquitoes carrying somebody away is true.
Wow.
So now King Salmon is at the base of the Aleutian chain. It starts over here thin and goes big, and it's here, and then maybe 300, 400 miles is Anchorage. So it's out in the boonies, and I'm there. And now I have to tell you one more story.
Please.
You want the story?
I
You got
do.
it. Okay, now I played ping pong when I was in Brooklyn. In fact, I was very good. Left-handed, I could beat most anybody. Right-handed, I used the pen handle grip, and I was an Olympic level player.
Is that legal to hold it like that?
Oh,
Don't
yes.
they have the rules how you have to
no,
hold
no,
the
no,
paddle?
no. In fact, the pen handle group, you have one side that's one kind of a texture, and the other side another, and you can switch textures.
Yeah, like the smooth and the
Yeah,
rough.
right. So you can affect the ball that way. Anyway, I play ping pong. And while I was at King Salmon, Alaska, I won the Interforce World Championship. And I was on the cover of the Air Force Times with the with the colonel who was in charge of the base. It was the highlight of his career to be on the Air Force Times. Okay? He saved my life. He literally saved my life because they were taking people from King Salmon, Alaska as weapon controllers, remember that, and bringing them in
To Korea.
behind the lines
Wow.
to bring the planes in and bomb. Now, I'm big, I'm loud. I would have lasted 30 seconds.
Yeah, if that.
In fact, the officer in front of me went and was killed. The officer after me was killed, but he didn't send me. He put me on a result. He put me on a site. He put me on a site remotely. Oh, it's some water. Great. Oh, you missed.
Here you go.
He put me on a site where I could just languor. I had my classical music, I had my food, and I was all by myself, and they loved it. And the only reason they loved it, because I was the only room in the entire base that wasn't painted, because I had all this crap that I had collected in Alaska. Fish nets and these big floating balls that they used to support the nets. It was great. So he put me there, and then I get out. Now, I get out, and I have a big beard, like you guys.
Right.
I look slovenly. I haven't had a proper uniform on in months, and they bring me to Washington, to some military base in Washington, to ship me back, because I'm going to be discharged after my term, in 3.5, 4 years, right?
That's amazing.
Now, wait. The point is that I'm sitting there in this military, I can't remember the name of the base, and some colonel comes around the corner and sees me and has a catatonic fit. He says, I have never seen anybody as slovenly you in my life. You are a disgrace to the uniform. You are a disgrace to the military. You're a disgrace to the American way of life. You stand there, and I'm going to get an MP. And he's screaming for an MP. Well, as soon as he goes around the corner, I'm out the door, I'm in a bus, and I go to the local domestic airport, and I fly with the only money I have in my pocket to Hawaii
Wow.
to escape him.
Wow.
Weren't you going to get, wasn't that dereliction of duty?
Well, the point is, I'm on my way to be released.
Oh, yeah.
So I've got like a week before I'm going to be discharged.
And you get this jerk shake up.
So I get to Hawaii.
Oh, you got a good plan.
I got to Hawaii. Now I'm in Hawaii, and I befriend a lady there who helps me live for a week, and then gives me some money, and I get back to Hollywood, to Los Angeles, to become an actor. And they have my crap from Alaska sitting there, and they say, it's a good thing you showed up. We were about ready to ship this back to Alaska. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I got it. And that is 1965. Now, the truth of the matter is, I told you I had 3 Jaguars.
Yes.
That Jaguar ruined me. The first one, it was an XK XK 120 drop head coupe. Beautiful car. English cars are made for English climates. So this car in Texas, you had to have the heater on when it was 120 or it would boil over. Now, I used to have towels on my legs because the heater was burning the hell out of my legs. But it was a great car. Okay. Now, what happened was, when I went, they shipped me to Alaska. I didn't know what to do with my car in Reno, and I gave it to a young guy who worked at a service station, young married guy with 2 children. He said, "We'll put it up in the blocks. We'll turn it on and over every once in a while and keep it running for you. And when you come back from Alaska, it'll be perfect." Now, I really kept it up, right? Well, while I was in Alaska, he stole the car, left his wife, and came down to Hermosa Beach and was making surfboards.
Wow.
Now, let me tell you that. I come back to Reno to find out where my car and it's not there. So I go to Hermosa Beach and I walk the streets, and sure as shit, I finally see my car, or what's left of my car. It was immaculate, and it was reduced just to a pile of junk. And I sat there for like 8 or 10 hours, and he finally comes to pick up the car, and I literally almost beat the shit out of him. I almost killed him. If someone hadn't taken me off, I probably would have killed him.
Wow.
Now, all the money that I had saved in the military that I got when I got discharged, I used to try to save that car and bring it back.
Oh, God.
And it never did. And that's why I started acting as an actor where every job was life and death. And guess what?
It was.
Every job was life and death, and still is life and death. Now, I'll stop and see what else you'd like to talk about. But that's how I got into show business.
Well, your resume, because of your size.
You're still driving a Jaguar.
I know. I had another one, which was terrific. Which
XJ6?
Was XJ6 Van der Plas.
I worked for a guy who had one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to have two, one to run and one for parts.
Yeah.
Oh, but let me tell you, they were wonderful, beautiful machines. Now I have a monster. I have a monster. I have an XJ-FR, 510 horsepower, V8 supercharged.
Wow.
And it's more car than I can handle. Much more car than I can handle. It's an older car. It's 8 or 9 years old now, but it looks like the new ones. And it's magnificent. I'm sorry, I'm a snob. I love Jaguars.
Did you have those ones with the long? They were 12 cylinders, right? The
No,
super long ones?
they had them. That was not it.
No.
No.
What was your first acting gig?
First acting gig was, "Hey Landlord."
The TV show.
"Hey Landlord." I had one line, and I remember it was took place in the theater lobby, and it was a fake set, and there was a little red light behind the set. When the light went on, I was supposed to come on. Okay, so we're doing the Marshall. What's his name?
You mean James Arness?
No, Marshall. The last name Marshall, the producer.
Oh, Gary Marshall.
Gary Marshall was directing this.
Wow.
Okay, and we're standing around, and he says, "You got makeup on. You must be the actor. Go to your spot." So I go to the spot. I'm waiting. I'm nervous. I remember saying it. And the light came on, and I came on, and of course, I couldn't remember the line. And he said, "Let's do it again. You got one more chance, buddy." So I went back, got it, and I did it. And that was the first show that I ever did. Why do I keep wanting to hit this cable? Anyway, that was the first job.
Wow.
1965, 66, 67.
It went to 67. Yeah,
Right.
and
That got you in SAG?
Huh?
That got you in SAG? Screen
I
Actors
can't
Guild.
remember if that was it or not. It might have been. It might have been. I didn't get Taft-Hartley. I got into SAG before the job, so that was good.
Will Hutchins, Sandy Barron, Michael Constantine.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, and there was the Japanese girl, Yuko Mayama. What was her name?
On Hey Landlord?
Well, full cast and crew. It didn't say you. It doesn't say. Let's see. Wait. Sally Field.
Right.
Wow.
Larry Hankin's in that. We're going to get him on the show. Larry
really?
Hankin. Oh my God, Larry Hankin. Rob Reiner.
I'll have Rob Reiner stories you won't believe.
Oh.
Like what? Rob Reiner's Uncle Richie was my agent or cousin Richie was my agent for a number of years.
Rob
Richie Reiner.
Rob Reiner and I studied with Jeff Corey, one of the great.
Oh my God!
Coaches.
My first movie was with Jeff Corey. I
Really?
wasn't in a scene with him, but
Joy Harmon.
I was in a scene with
Carl Gottlieb.
Charles Grodin and
Humble beginnings. Yeah.
wow. So you studied with Jeff Corey? That's amazing.
I studied for Jeff for 3 years, and
Miko Mayama.
that's it. Now Miko Mayama turned out to be, as I remember now.
Look at
on
Star Trek.
Let him finish. Go on.
No, it turned out to be with me in one of the best Hawaii 5-0s I ever did. Was called Skinhead. Now, Skinhead was the first major network show ever to talk about male impotency. I had been in an accident and couldn't get it up. And I wanted to be accused of rape to prove to the guys in the barracks that I was a man, but I couldn't have done it. And that was the inside joke, sort of, not a joke for me. And it was one of the first and only Hawaii 5-0s of that first season that ended on my face and not Jack Lord. But that's another story.
Oh no, you said Streets of San Francisco?
No.
Wasn't that Carl Malden?
Hawaii 5-0.
Hawaii 5-0 with Jeff Lord.
Hawaii
Sorry, go
5-0.
ahead.
Hawaii 5-0.
This was 1972. This happened.
And Hawaii 5-0, I think Miko Mayama was the girl. I'm pretty. There was a girl in that, an Asian girl that I think was the same girl from that.
Wow.
She's a good-looking woman.
Oh yes, she was very, very pretty but short. When you're 6'6", they're all short.
That's the world of our lives, boy.
That's why I married my wife. My wife is 5'11" or 5'10 and a half. with a 36-inch scene, and she had legs like my mother. And my mother, I was in love with my mother, of course. We all are in love with our mother. And so I already married my mother practically.
We're not supposed to admit that, though. That's supposed to be subconscious.
Yeah, but you said I could get away with anything here.
Anything
Now,
goes, baby.
We all saw this when we were kids, and we wanted to get pet rats when we saw the movie Ben.
Oh, you're in Ben.
Oh,
Yeah.
I got a good story about Ben.
Yeah, lay it on me.
Okay, here's
Oh my God, are you the cop who gets in with Paul Carr?
no,
Tear him apart!
no, I'm the guy that finds the rats. And there was a what they call a one sheet, and then there was a theater photo with me with my arm up and the rats crawling all over me.
Wow.
Now Jimmy Luisi, you remember Jimmy Luisi?
I do, the character actor.
Okay, Jimmy Luisi and I were the two sewer workers that were supposed to find the rats. Now
Wow.
we get the job, and Luisi comes to me after and he says, "Listen, I want to tell you something. When I was a kid in New York, rats chewed on me when I was in the crib, and I can't handle it." I said, "Well, why'd you take the job?" He says, "I need the money." He said, "You're going to have to cover for me. I don't know what's going to happen." Okay, so we start the first day of the scene, and I'm opening the grate, and I say, "Hey, Jimmy," I don't remember his name, "Jimmy, come on, I see the rats." And he comes on the set and sort of looks that way, screams, and runs off the set. So now I don't have any dialogue with him. I can't do the dialogue. And I keep saying, "Where you going? It's just the rats. We can do this." And then, of course, I get eaten up alive by the rats. Now, you think...
Wow.
By the way, if you're going to
So
do
it's
a
not like
killer,
all improv. Did they use
You had to
that
do the whole
cut?
thing. No, they didn't cut. They just, I keep, as this show is, I keep talking, right?
no, you're doing great. But a killer rat movie, if you're not invited to the killer rats, there's no point.
So here's the kicker. We're in this fake sewer for 2 days or 3 days doing this sequence. And they have live rats. They've got trained rats. They've got stuffed rats.
Is this a Universal?
Paramount.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, probably the old.
I think it's Paramount.
Probably the old earthquake sewer set.
I don't know what they did, how they got it. Maybe.
But you said stuffed rats. Go on. I'm sorry.
So I got all these things on, and what happens is, in the midst of this, I accidentally sit on one of the live rats, bury it, and it dies. Guess what? They stopped the production. What's the
An
government?
animal.
ASPCA.
What?
ASPCA.
ASPCA comes in and has to write a report. And I'm saying, are you kidding me? We've been in the sewer for 3 days. I've got pneumonia. I'm cold and wet. And you're worried about the rats? Are you nuts? And I went and went, bam, bam, bam with my foot. I said, now you can write the report.
Wait, you stepped on 3 more rats?
No, I stepped on the same one that was already dead.
wow, okay.
But rats were more important to ASP, what is it?
ASP, American Society of Prevention Cruelty to Animals.
ASPCA.
Yeah.
They didn't care about the actors. And
It's
again,
a killer rat movie, man.
that's right. Now,
You ain't on the poster.
the head rat, there were 3 of them that played Ben,
Right.
and they were kept between the boobs of the trainer.
Really?
Yes. And
I
lot
hope
of
it was a
people
beautiful
said,
woman.
I'd like to be a rat.
wow.
I'd like to be a
I
rat.
hope it was a beautiful woman and not an obese man.
No, it was a fairly attractive woman. She wasn't Linda Carter, but she was fairly,
Who is, I ask you?
yeah. Well, I never realized she was as attractive as she was till I saw a still of me with her golden rope around me that they took on the set and so forth.
Yeah, you got roped by Wonder Woman. You were forced to tell the truth. Were you a Nazi or just a henchman?
Just a henchman.
Wow.
I've said, "Can I get the box, boss?" more ways than Carter's got pills. See, now you laugh at that line.
Yeah, Carter's
pills.
got liver pills.
But guess what? Today's people don't.
They don't get it.
They don't get it. They've never heard of Carter. They don't know what's going on.
But I watch there's a channel called Movies 13, and on Saturday nights they do nothing but film noir, like 40s and 50s movies. So I've heard that line about 3 times in these old movies with, you know what I mean? These old detective movies.
When I watch Turner, I'm a slave to Turner Classic.
I love
Movies.
Turner Classic.
I'm still in the 40s and 50s. In fact, my radio interview yesterday, I was watching Black Orchid with Greta Garbo, which was, what's happened to films. We can get into that. It started off silent. Then it went to silent with sound effects thrown in. So if they were in a train, they had a train in the background. They still never did the voice, right?
Yeah.
Then it became silent with dialogue. Then it became movies with sound. Then it became sound with movies. And now it's all sound.
Yeah.
5.1, 7.1 surround sound. You can have a terrible movie, but if you've got a great soundtrack,
True.
it takes off. It's astounding what's happened.
The soundtrack is the studio's way of getting their hand in. All these performers can be on the soundtrack and all this.
And they make a lot of money on the soundtrack as well as the film.
No. On Wonder Woman, what do you remember about Linda Carter? What do you remember about doing the show?
Not much, except that I do remember one. I remember being at the Department of Water and Power in one of their main stations.
Oh, you're talking about the one that looks like an old 40s building, right?
Right.
I did a short film there.
Did you?
Yeah.
Anyway, we were down in the cellar, and they had a guard standing next to a metal pipe like a truss that was this big, maybe 20 feet long, that had 30 or 40,000 volts in it, and they kept me away because they know actors can fall down and stumble and make mistakes that way.
Let me jump back to Ben for a minute. None of the rats bit you?
No, I should have bit one of the rats to be quite
Now,
honest.
were any of the
them.
same production people from Willard that were on Ben?
I don't know that.
You know?
I
That
don't
was
know.
Bing Crosby. Was he ever on set? Bing Crosby produced Ben and
Never,
Willard.
I know, never saw
That's
it.
when Michael Jackson sang the title.
Michael Jackson won the Oscar for
Won
that.
won the Oscar,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Wow. With Lee Harcourt Montgomery.
Yeah.
It's amazing because when you look at your stuff, I mean, you're eaten by killer rats. That's hilarious. You're arrested by Wonder Woman. You're in one of the most kick-ass action shows ever made. What was it like doing a fight scene with Mannix?
Well, actually, I didn't do a fight scene, but I have to tell you how I got to Mannix.
Please. You're the only guy tall as him, right?
Right, but here's the story. By the way, his agent was my agent at one time.
Oh,
Diamond artist.
wow.
My heavens, I'll think of it.
Help us
Abby Greshler.
Yeah, Abby Greshler. Wow.
Abby Greshler was the main agent, and he had Martin and Lewis, and he had Ben Casey.
Oh,
did-
yeah. Vince Edwards.
Vince Edwards. Now let me tell you a story about Vince Edwards' story. This is a great story.
Lay it on us.
Okay, he's on a doctor show. I don't remember the name of it. Oh.
I want to say,
Ben Casey.
Yeah, Ben Casey, but it's not in Ben Casey. You're not talking Chicago Hospital.
No, early.
Medical Center.
No, before that, I think.
Wow.
I think it was called Ben Casey.
Okay.
Vince Edwards, right?
Yeah.
So Vince Edwards was with Abby Greshler, and Abby was involved, and he comes on the set one time and says, why do we need all these people? They cost money. Well, but of course they all had their job to do. Anyway, they were, Vince Edwards, now am I getting right?
You're totally right.
Ben Casey
Yes.
was played by
By Vince Edwards,
Okay.
and he was Sam Gunga Din. Sam. Oh God, I'm blanking. He played his mentor, I think, because I wrote about this in my Buck Rogers book. The guy who played Gunga Din played Ben Casey's
Abner
mentor.
Biberman played Gunga Din. Abner Biberman.
I know, but there's the other guy in the movie with him, Sam. You know who I'm talking about? Sam-
Jaffe?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Boy, something's come back.
Wow. Anyway, he was on that show as well.
So now, what was the last show we were talking about?
You were talking about Vince Edwards.
Okay, so what happens is Abby Greshler comes on the set, though they've been fighting, at Christmas time. And this shows you what the singularity and focus that these agents had. And he goes up to Vince and says, Vince, I understand we've been at odds, and I want to apologize, and I want to invite you and your wife to dinner at my house for Christmas.
Oh no.
No, I want to invite you to dinner. And Vince Edwards spits in his face.
Wow. Yeah, he was a famous tough guy.
Spits in his face. Abby takes out his kerchief, wipes his face and says, "And bring your wife too."
Wow.
See, nothing stopped Abbey Gresham.
Wow.
In fact, I think they called him the Jewish Dracula. He just wouldn't lay down.
And by the way, Sam Jaffe was Gunga Din.
Was it? Okay, not Abner Bimmerman. Okay. You know, it's a long time ago. I hope your audience enjoys some of these old stories.
We're
about these
loving
old
them.
shows.
And as a Turner Classic Movies fan, I've seen Gunga Din.
So, have you? Oh, yeah.
I've seen it on the big screen. They ran it here at the old Canyon Theater once.
Now, one of my favorite shows when I was in
Oh, wait. You never finished
grade
your Mannix.
school.
No.
You never finished your Mannix story.
Oh, so what happened was I'm doing a wonderful show, by the way. It was called Underground Man. Underground Man was Ross McDonald. He was
The Fletcher, yeah.
he was Dashiell Hamill living today. And Newman did The Drowning Pool and a couple of his
yeah,
great films.
Harper, yeah.
Lou Harper. So by the way, the Lou Harper was played by I'll think of it in a minute. Anyway,
You mean on the
on Underground Man,
okay.
who was the first Mission Impossible guy?
Before Peter Graves.
Peter Graves.
Yes.
No, Peter Graves. So they owed Peter Graves a series, a show. So they gave him Underground Man. And I played a wonderful role. In fact, I have the hard copy of the book.
Lou Harper was Brian Keith, by the way.
That was another one?
Yeah, they did one in the 70s.
Right. Well, this was Peter Graves.
Wow.
And the bottom line is that Underground Man, I played another mentally retarded guy, and I'll go into why I play all those retarded guys.
We're big. I've been cast as a retarded guy a couple times too. You know?
My real brother had brain damage and was an idiot savant. And so what happens is I watched him grow up, and I had a hell of a lot of background, so I could play them very, very well. Wow. Anyway, the point is that I'm playing Fritz Snow, and my mother is Dame Judith Anderson.
Whoa, Mr. Spock's mother, by the way, on Star Trek.
Wow.
Yeah.
The cast was unbelievable. They had all these huge names.
Holy
and
cats.
me.
Wow.
Okay. So what happens is that I wound up doing that show, and I don't remember why I started talking about that.
Mannix. You were going to Mannix.
That's right. While I'm doing that
We pay attention. Your stories are good.
We'll keep you on track.
Yeah.
While I'm doing that show, and I was very good at it, by the way, I could have been nominated. I could have run for an Emmy if I had $5,000 to pay for the
Publicist.
I couldn't get it. Wow. They buried the show. They aired it. They screened it at the studios the same time that they put it on air. It was a shame. It was a great show, and I had a great part. Dame Judith Anderson said, "The boy's good," which is great for me. Is great for me. I'm going to take a little water.
Well, by all means.
Yeah, for her to say something to that, like, yeah, I'd be honored for her to say that to me, you know?
So what happened while I'm there, they're telling people on the lot at Paramount, hey, you got to come see this guy work. So the producers of Mannix came over and
Bruce Geller and the other guy?
I don't remember
Wow.
them, handed me the script for this show called Sweet Swing and Sam. That was my part. I didn't even play golf. They said, doesn't matter. They had a pro do the swings, and that's how I got that part. And they just wanted me to be in the show based on my work, which I was very humbled by.
That's all.
Well, so that bums me out. As a big guy, you didn't get a fight scene with Mannix.
Well, here's the story. Big guys are bad guys, but I tried forever to broaden my scope, my range.
Right.
In fact, I got hired because of my work in Bubble Bubble Toil and Murder with a young Jodie Foster at 12 years old, which was my just a reincarnation of my real brother. I got all these mentally retarded people. And I finally went to the producer and said, I've done 6 or 7 year shows for the same kind of guy. I'm an actor. I can do more. He said, I said, well, let me try. I said, why do you hire me at the same guy, the same type? He said, why? Because it's easy.
Oh, wow.
Oh, because it's easy.
That's
Oh,
right.
man.
I know you can do the job. Next. I said,
Wow.
will you consider me for something else? He said, absolutely. Never heard from him again. Never heard from him again.
I would argue that was jumping on your luck. You never let them overthink it.
Don't talk about luck, because I'm not alone. There are a lot of actors out there where timing was everything and timing was nothing for me. Every little climb up the mountain, I had to gouge out with my fingernails.
Right.
And I earned every little bit that I did. Luckily, I believed in publicity, and that's why I'm on this show now.
We appreciate that.
To reincarnate my career after 30 years of hiatus. But I put 10% of everything I earned back into publicity. In fact, I knew the guy at Variety so well that when they did a series of 365 articles for a whole year of stars who advertised themselves in Variety. And I was one of the guys that they put in that series.
Wow.
And Shirley Jones's husband, Marty
Ingalls would put ads for himself at the drop of a hat.
Right.
Yeah.
He calls me up because I did Children of Onluck with Shirley, which is another wonderful story. He calls me up and says, "How the hell did you get in that paper?" And I said, "They made a mistake." What are you going to say?
Yeah.
What are you going to say to the man? You know, he's dead.
Yeah.
And I'm alive, so I don't want to besmirch him too much. But the point is that he was not an easy man.
I was on an audition for a movie that never got made, and it was a bunch of it was a low budget thing. This is like 5-6 years ago, and Marty Ingalls came in, and and I was so excited because he did all the cartoon voices when I was a kid. You know what I
Right.
mean? I mean, Biggly and all that. And he was in there like a half hour, and it was everybody reading for every part. Younger, older, mid.
Right.
And when he finally left, one of my friends was putting the movie together. And I pulled him aside and I go, "He must have blown the doors off. You were in there for a half hour." And he goes, "We couldn't get rid of him."
Right.
And he goes, and he took off his hat at the end of the audition. And he said, Shirley and I are doing a fund against violence in movies. I need you all to make a contribution. He was shaking down the producers and the casting directors trying to get money out of them for his charity.
Well, you know what it is? Actors have to find a way to separate themselves from the crowd. Sometimes they do it in a good way. Sometimes they do it in an obvious way. And
Yeah.
sometimes they are just too pushy for words.
They literally kind of pushed him out the door. I remember,
Pulling his head off.
Yeah.
Because the amalgam,
Feed the kitty, man.
Yeah.
the amalgam of why people are able to break out is unfathomable. I got close to an Emmy. I got close to this and close to that. But obviously, I didn't get there, and I understand that. And that's one of the reasons I'm so privileged, in an essence, to get a last shot at trying to do what I want to do, because actors have roles, but very seldom are they stretched, and especially in the casting genre of American films and television. They get locked into a type, and that's all they're asked to do over and over again. Now, I'm not here to do Hamlet, but the point is, I kept trying to push myself. That's why I was so lucky with the mental retardation situation, in order to expand the bad guy. Here's a story. Here's another story. I'm a bad guy all the time. Badass. My manager at the time, his name was Ellis Gold, Ego Enterprises. I remember that.
Ellis Gold. Was he relation to Tracy Gold and all that?
I don't think so, but I don't know. Anyway, Ellis gets me into this producer for a bad guy who's in jail and breaks down because his daughter is being molested by the bad guys outside, and he has this sensitive scene. And the producer keeps telling Ellis, he's a bad guy, he can't do this. He's a bad guy, he can't do this. And he said, please, he's an actor, give him a shot. I'm not going to hire him. But if you're hawking me to death, okay, bring him in. Now, I don't know any of this. I go in and I read the part. I break down reading the part. The person reading the part next to me breaks down. And the producer looks at me and says, Jesus Christ. Your manager was right. You can do that. He said, I'm sorry, I've already cast the role.
Wow.
But that was the thing. You get locked in, and so you say, what do? I was always trying to expand. Now, in essence, it was good for my acting craft and for my personal goals, it was not good for my career because I should have just continued to play the heavies and move up. I didn't get Jaws, right? Or neither did you. But,
Yeah.
and of course, Kyle said one of the things when he was interviewed, he said, "Yeah, I really wanted to play a brain surgeon."
But and by the way, Richard Kyle's from Kills from Michigan.
Oh, really?
He's from Detroit. Yeah.
So it's
And he
either
was
Brooklyn or Michigan. That's it. Is that
And,
what you're telling me?
and he's an engineer. He was an engineer. He was an electrical engineer.
No kidding.
Oh yeah. And
Well,
then-
there's my engineering field.
yeah.
I want to talk about that sometime.
You could have had that. You could have had it.
Let me ask you this. How long have we been on the air already? Because
We just hit an hour.
We got another hour.
do you have to-
great.
do you have to
Now, if
use
I
the
don't
re-
lose my voice because I'm getting a little enthusiastic.
Hey,
Yeah,
we're appreciating
totally.
it. Enthusiasm's good. You haven't been boring. We're going to talk about Bitch, Pitch, and Get Rich, your book, in a minute.
Okay, I just want you to know because it has something to say beyond me, which is something maybe that other people may be interested in.
Jack Lord. You mentioned Jack Lord. How was he? Was he cold? Was he nice?
Jack Lord, poor Jack Lord.
He was famously, he had a rep for being cold.
Let me tell you a couple Jack Lord stories. Number one, my first day going to the set. I'm excited. I'm a guest star. I'm talking to the driver. I say, what's the story about Jack Lord? And the Hawaiian driver says, Mr. Lord have no friends because he need no friends. Wow. And that's all he ever said. So here was Jack Lord's modus operandi. You would go there as a guest star, being brought in from the mainland, and he'd bring you into his trailer and say, let's go over this part a little bit. And you'd start to read it, and he'd say, what's this shit? You're going to do it this way? That's garbage. He tried to break you down. And if you broke you down, boop, you were back and they got somebody else.
Holy crap.
Luckily, because I'm not only loquacious, but I like to get involved with people, I got the story before I got the interview.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Okay? So he brings me in and I start and he says, exactly that. That's shit. You're going to do it that way? I said, actually, Mr. Lord, I'm going to do it the way the director wants me to do it. Wow. He said, oh, okay. I'll see you later.
Wow.
Now, the other Jack Lord story is that I love cameras. I'm a professional photographer as well. And I used to have all kinds of cameras, and I had a huge 300 millimeter Canon lens. By the way, the new cameras on these new phones are as good as all these SLRs today. It's astounding what they've done.
Wow.
Miniaturization is unbelievable. Anyway, I had this great camera with this great lens, and it looked top-notch professional because it was. And I brought it on the set and started taking a few pictures around the set. Jack Lord saw the camera outfit and realized it was bigger and better than his. And the next day there was a notice, no personal photo equipment allowed.
Oh, he didn't like that shit at
So
all.
the stories about him being really petty and mean-spirited were true.
Not only that, Jack Lord truly believed that he invented the Hawaiian Islands, even though they were from the 1700s.
What an ego, man.
Unbelievable. In fact, he not only was the producer and star, but he rented all the equipment to the production company. So he
was
made a
screwing them.
lot
He's cleaning
of
house.
money. Now, what happens when they would ask him to do something to benefit Hawaii, some celebration or parade, he'd say, sure, but he wanted 50,000 or more to do it. And that was too bad. Now, he was a terrific actor early on.
Yeah, he's in one of the early James Bond movies. I think Dark
Yes, he
Knight,
was.
you
But
know.
before that, he was in television and played, maybe it was God's Little Acre. He was in God's Little Acre. He played a role where he was still alive as an actor, okay? When we deal with actors, we look at them and they look at us and we communicate. By the time, this is all in my opinion, and maybe I don't have it all exactly right, but I think I do. He was dead behind the eyes by the time I saw him.
Wow.
You'd look at him, but there was nothing there, gone, right? but he was better. He was better before. And I think fame and stardom, by the way, his name wasn't Lord. He made himself his name
Are
Lord.
you serious?
Because he wants to be the Lord of everything.
He was now, years later, at Benihana here in Los Angeles, on Valentine's Day or some romantic day, we go in to have a Benihana thing, and there is Jack Lord sitting all by himself. His skin has been pulled back so many times you can see the veins below the skin.
Oh wow!
You know that hairdo. It was glued on there because he would be in a hurricane; it wouldn't move.
Oh, so was it a toupee or
No, it was real hair, but it was now. Why do I badmouth him? I don't mean to. I'll tell you this.
You're just telling the facts.
But the truth is, who knows what kind of an amalgam it is to become a star? You can have talent, but you have timing. You have to have timing. You have to be at the right place at the right time. And it all has to work. And the camera has to love you. They either hate you or they love you, but they can't be bland about it. Now, he had something on camera that people responded to, and you can never take stardom away from the people that get there. You know what I mean? Because that is a quality that few people have, and the test for an actor is to fight through his career to get to the point where he's really tested. I don't know how good an actor I can be. I know I've done roles. I know I've studied. I know I've trained. My new agent said, "Well, tell me about yourself." I said, "Well, the first 30 years I acted. In the last 30 years, I learned about life and living, because that's what we are." You know, Charles Lawton said, "It's my job to come on film and show the people the empathy and the soul of the character and themselves, because they don't have the courage or the craft to do it in their real lives. And they can live vicariously through the roles that I create."
That makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's what real acting is all about. And I myself longed for an opportunity and never really reached the kind of roles that stretched me. And I don't know whether there's any roles left. You know, the older you are, the less roles there are. Right?
Well, you play a lot of wacky grandfathers, right?
So the bottom line, your chances are slim, but your competition is slim because they're dying. So I'm hoping that there's somebody out there, either on this show or some show, that says, you know, let's see if we can't find something that's demands quality work. Because I can say, "Can I get the box, boss?" Plenty of times.
Well, I remember there was an actor named James Whitmore Jr. who told me a pretty great story. He was angry because he was on a Stephen J. Cannell show, and he was playing. He goes, "This is the 4th time I played that character for you."
Right.
And he said, Cannell, listen to what he goes, "I'm this dumb, blah, blah, blah." And Cannell said, "Congratulations. It's time for you to learn how to direct." And he helped him become a big TV director, you know?
Well, I didn't get that kind of help, unfortunately. And it's been a struggle. There's been wonderful people. I said I did the show with Shirley Jones.
Yeah, how is she?
Unbelievable. I hope if she ever hears this, everybody falls in love with Shirley Jones. She was truly a luminous star.
Despite Marty Ingalls.
Despite Marty Ingalls, I have to say that.
Yeah.
He drove her nuts. He drove her nuts, and he had her do work just to make money that she really didn't want to do. But in essence, as a human being, as a mensch, as a performer, she was wonderful, lit up the room, as they say, lit up the room, and I was extremely privileged to know her and work with her. It was just a wonderful thing.
Wow. What about, talk about some of the celebrity, the stars you worked with that you really liked. You know, who?
Well, Shirley Jones was certainly one of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are few chances in a shoot, no matter how long it is, that you can develop a relationship. Everybody's got their job to do. They're in, they're out. You're sitting, you're waiting, you're called back and so forth. The thing about the sting that I like to bring back.
Yeah,
Is that I was actually on the picture 14 weeks.
Wow.
From day one to end. Now, that is a real career today.
Yeah.
Today, they would shoot you, drop you, bring you back. And if you didn't come back, you were dead in the industry for the rest of your life. But I was on the picture. And
day in, day out, 14 weeks.
yeah, I didn't work all that time.
But you were paid to be working.
I
that
was
time.
paid. Now, what I was
3.5
now what I
months.
was paid,
So that's the whole shoot, right?
Yes.
It took
14 weeks.
that's a lot. That's a lot of time.
Now,
man.
the truth is this. I got paid $1,000 a week. For me at that time, that was pretty damn good. Okay? Robert Shaw's per diem was $2,000 a day.
Wow.
Now, I got to tell you a story about Robert
That's a lot
Shaw.
of money back then.
Oh, a lot of money. In fact, Robert Shaw was not only a great actor, but he was a great director and a great playwright.
Yeah, he wrote the
Man in the Glass Booth.
exactly.
So the point is that he was a world-class artist. Now, he was not the first choice for the part of Lonigan. They wanted Richard Boone.
Wow, Heck Ramsey.
And I did a Heck Ramsey.
I
by the
know,
way.
that's why I brought it up.
But the point is, Richard Boone was afraid that Newman and Redford would outshine him.
Well, yeah, they're handsomer than he
Okay.
is.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But so he passed. When they got around to Robert Shaw, he knew all the stories. And he said, of course I'll do it. But I want everything that Newman and Redford gets.
Wow.
Same size billing, same 10% of the gross in the number one position.
Wow.
Now, that means on the first run of $125 million, the Sting made, and by the way, it's one of the 10 top grossers in adjusted monies today in the world. But the first run, they made $12.5 million, including Shaw. Now, the thing about this is that Shaw was the actor. Everybody knew he was the actor. Redford and Newman knew he was the actor. Every shot that he took, he did differently. The take after take, always different, subtly sometimes, mainly sometimes, but all usable and all good.
Wow.
And guess what? In retrospect, he's great, but so are Newman and Redford. They played themselves, which is the way American actors are disciplined and used in their career. But they're beautiful, they're believable, and it's a great, great, great role.
Well written, very funny movie. You know,
Say that again?
it's a well written, very funny movie.
Talk about that. I mean, that's what's happened. We don't write anymore. We don't write anymore.
And the writer went to the Claremont Colleges. David, what's his
Ward?
name? Yes.
David Ward. In fact, when we did the 30th anniversary of the Sting at the Newport Film Festival, and I'm on stage with everybody except Newman and Redford. I think they weren't there. I know they weren't there. I said to David Ward, who also wasn't there, Jesus, I wish you had given me more than one line, because my line was, "We're pulling in." That was my line. Trains pulling into the station. Now, I got to tell you an inside story, too. Actually, I was hired by mistake. You know, for the ancillary part, for the main characters, they rehearsed for 2 weeks before they ever started rolling the film. But for the ancillary characters, we're just brought in and we do our job. I happened to be around every time there was a train sequence, right? Or every time Shaw was around, I was there. But the point is that someone had said, gone through maybe the Academy directory, which they don't use anymore, and said, get that guy. And he probably pointed at that. So I came in. Now, and I'm cast, and I never meet him. And Pete Salduti was the head of male wardrobe. Judith Head was head of female wardrobe, huge name in wardrobe.
Was that Edith Head's daughter or
No, her.
Oh, Edith Head herself.
Yes.
Wow.
We're going back that far.
And this is the Universal Studios
Universal.
backlot. Wow.
Universal. So Pete Salduti, we do a shot, a first shot of me walking down a train with Shaw behind me and Charlie Dirkoff behind him. And we're waddling down the train because it's moving, right? Salduti comes up to me and said, well, welcome aboard. And I'd already been on the show for a week or so. And I didn't understand. Well, George Hill said, I didn't want that guy. But once they got me on film,
They
I was
couldn't get rid of you.
established.
Wow.
Okay? And later on, I felt very badly about that. But Al Ebner, which is a pretty well-known
Publicist. He also did Jaws for Zennick and Brown after this.
Yeah.
He's in my book.
Steve Joyner knew him. And Al Ebner put an ad in Variety that said, Lee Paul co-stars with Redford and Newman. Oh my God. I felt like they were going to just cut my balls off. Unbelievable. I hid for 2 days. Well, it turns out they didn't give a shit. They didn't give a shit.
That's cool.
But the point is that once I was on the show, I was that, and then Feiner, I kept saying to George Way-Hill, did you really hire me by mistake? I mean, my ego was really strong. He finally said, look, I got exactly what I expected, a big, dumb Pollock. Now, you can't say Pollock today.
No, you cannot.
You can't say Pollock today.
And in my part
Even
of
the Pollock, like this Pollock here, can't even say
and
Pollock.
even in my part of Michigan, if you said that at Jim Thorpe Elementary, it was on.
Wow. So the point is that it turned out to be the highlight of my career in the sense that it's such a well-known.
You're in a movie that the National Film Registry recognizes as a classic, one of the 100 greatest films of all
Right,
time.
absolutely. Dimitri Arliss said that was the highlight of her career. She played the one who tries to kill Redford.
Right.
I can't remember his name. You keep pointing it at me. Do you want me to?
No, there's another thing about the Sting, about you told me on the phone a few days ago about the song, that theme song.
Okay.
Scott Joplin, right?
It brought Scott Joplin back, but actually Scott Joplin's era was before the Sting. I mean, it was 20 years before.
Oh, so the music was wrong.
Music was wrong,
Wow.
but it worked so well. But here's the point. George Way-Hill, who's passed, by the way,
Right.
and a brilliant man who died, I think, of MS, a terrible, terrible way to go.
Worse, I think it was dementia.
All
read
that
it.
stuff.
Yeah.
Terrible way to go. He played the piano professionally and wanted to play the score for the film. And up to the very last minute, he was going to do the score. And then he said, nah, let Marvin Hamlish do it. And Marvin Hamlish played the score.
And won the Oscar for it.
Isn't that, wow, that was a good story.
Well, they won 7 Academy Awards.
Wow.
And it was on the radio all day long. They were collecting some money on that tune there, every radio station.
So remember I was talking about Robert Shaw and how he was the actor.
Yeah.
Now what happened was he was writing a script at the time. I don't remember if it was called The Grey Panthers or not, but it was about older people trying to save the world after the millennials and youngsters that screwed it up. And he had the galleys, and he wanted Charlie Dierkopf and I to read out loud the galleys so he could get an idea of how the American idiom worked and how the phrasing
Really?
was right. So we were for 13 weeks we were in Universal. For 1 week we were in Chicago doing the train stations. Now, one of my favorite movies of all time is North by Northwest.
Great film.
And the Broadway East is the hotel where Eva Marie Saint is staying, and he comes in after the great plane runs into the
that amazing
Cary
sequence.
Grant comes into things all disheveled, and he goes up to the room. Well, we were there because Shaw was ensconced in there, and we and Charlie and I were in some little dump someplace 3 miles away. but he brought us over. We were there for a week, living with him in his hotel room, drinking. I can't remember sleeping. He loved.
What did he drink? What was Shaw's drink of choice? Because everyone in the Jaws book had a different scotch or something.
Scotch, as far as I remember, it was cases of scotch. The point is, he actually he died at 62. You may know that.
No.
He smoked cigars too, right?
I don't remember.
No?
I think he might have been in his 50s, right?
No, I think he died at 62. You better check.
I'll look it up. Yeah, but
because he died on his way to his castle in Ireland. Got out of his car and died on the way.
Yeah. They said he got out of the car, took 3 steps, and dropped dead. His son-in-law wanted to buy a script for my brother. It's interesting, you know. Let's see.
So what happened is that we're drinking and eating and drinking for a week, and as we're leaving, the manager comes up with a bill and hands it to Mr. Shaw. And I said it was for $25,000. It could have been a little less, but it was a big, big bill. And he looked at it, and he wrote Universal Studios and threw it in the guy's face and walked out because he was Henry VIII living today.
Wow. Off with your head,
Oh,
man.
7 kids or 6 or 7 kids of his own, 6 or 7 kids that he adopted. I mean, when he was doing the movie Young Winston, we went to Mary Uhr's house, the rental, and with Shaw and Mary Uhr. And by the way, there's a tragic story. They both died within the same year.
Yes.
He died on the road to his castle in Ireland, and Mary Uhr died on a chicken bone eating after the opening.
Oh, my God.
Eating in her hotel room, waiting for the reviews of one of her Broadway shows.
Wow. By the way, dead at 51. Died the day before his birthday. 51.
So you're right and I'm wrong.
Only because I wrote a book on Jaws, so I did a lot of research.
Well, let me tell you that. That's one of the things we have to fact check, because as you get older, sometimes the stories get a little mixed up.
Well, how was Zenig and Brown? Did you like him?
Never talk to them.
Wow.
You know, Michelle Phillips, was that her name? Michelle Phillips? She wrote a book, I'll Never Eat Lunch.
Oh, Julia Phillips.
Julia Phillips, Never Eat Lunch in this town again. In that book, she said that drugs were rampant on the set.
Of the Sting?
Of the Sting.
Wow.
She said that everybody was screwing everybody. Never saw a thing about that. Now, maybe I wasn't in the inner circle.
They made you hold the camcorder.
Sorry. But the truth is, I never saw any of that. I do know that they were really pressed for things to do. I think one of them, even Newman or Redford, sent each of the other stars a 5 or 10 pound can of African elephant shit.
Why? They sent them elephant poop? Why?
Right, in a tin with the picture of the elephant and everything like that. Well, that's when they walked into I was in the entourage when we went to the Chicago Stock Exchange to visit. Trading stopped.
Wow.
Maybe 10 or 15 seconds, but to stop the flow of money, that's power.
Yeah.
That is absolute star power.
Wow.
And you cannot take that away. And that's why when I went back to the fact that what they did wonderfully well, and they are true American stars. Shaw was a true international star. Mm-hmm. And the thing that drove him to drink was his own competitiveness. At everybody else's level, he had made it. In his own personal life, he was still struggling to be better or to be accomplished or to be recognized in a bigger frame. And that demon drove him to death, I think.
I didn't know Mary Uhr choked to death on a chicken bone. That I did not know. Yeah. You know,
I have a little picture of them saying "To my favorite bodyguard," and they both signed it. And that's the wonderful thing about the business. You do meet some wonderful people. You asked who you respected. I certainly respected Newman Redford, though. Here's the difference. 30 years ago, was it? 40 years ago?
Oh, the Sting? Yeah.
40, 50 years ago. I don't remember now. But when I met Newman wouldn't talk to you directly as a person off the set unless he knew you for 4 or 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
He had his lackeys. You'd ask the lackeys a question. They would ask Newman. Newman would talk to him. And and then he'd talk to you. In fact, in a limo, we'd be in a big limo, and I'd ask a question because I was, on my tombstone, my wife says there's going to be a plaque that says, "Let me ask you one more question."
I'm like that too.
She said I drove her nuts, but I drove everybody else nuts with so many questions. But that's how you learn. That's how you get the right concept, and you get, as far as an actor, the right approach to the role. But the point is, in one of the limos, I asked him a question. The guy answered me. He talked to Newman. Newman talked to him, and he talked to me.
You're in the same car doing this shit.
Professionally, he was perfect. Personally, he was different. Now, Redford, on the other sense, talked to everybody, But I felt at that time, and I do in retrospect, that he had an internal clock who had already pre-timed how long he was going to spend with you.
Wow, that's right for it.
Wow.
And that when the
That's
clock,
something.
well, he may call me up, maybe he'll give me a job. I don't know. Now that he's retiring, if the little bell went off, he left the conversation.
Wow.
No matter
Just
what
dropped
it was.
out.
And you know why? Both of these guys were that way, because if they gave everybody the time that they needed, they need 700 hours a day.
Oh, yeah.
It is impossible
That makes
to have
sense.
your life. So they have to partition their time. And I respect that for sure.
Wow. But Shaw looked so much older than he was. I mean, 51, but he looked really, he must have been a heavy. The stories of him drinking are all very famous.
Unfortunately, they're all very true
Wow.
as far as I know. And I aged 4 or 5 years in that 1 week in Chicago.
Trying to keep up with him. Wow.
I think they called it the Pump Room, which was the famous place. We had oysters sent up by the dozens. Oh, boy, living first class, it may cost 800% more, but it's worth every penny of it. Every penny.
Wow. Eating oysters, and he threw the bill in the guy's face and said,
God,
send it to Universal
fantastic.
Studios. That's hilarious.
Wow. That makes sense, though, about guys like that. At that much of fame where you got to it would take up all your time.
Well, this little moment in life here makes me feel that the work that I did has more merit than I had given to it.
Yeah, shame on you. You know what I
Right.
mean? You've done a ton of shows.
Right. And now I'm beginning to think that maybe the next time you ask me, I'll have to check my schedule to see whether I've got the time.
Well, you've got it. You had a hell of a career. I mean, now, who were the big guys you were up against? Would you show up in an audition and be Richard Kiel and Mickey Morton and those guys, or
Now, who played the first Magnum?
Tom Selleck?
See that? Now,
Yeah.
I did that just to make sure that he could come up with the answers.
By the way, Tom Selleck and Magnum are both from Detroit. They were patron saints in Michigan when I was a kid.
Maybe I should have been born in Michigan.
I'm telling you.
Anyway, Tom Selleck, I was up against Tom Selleck all the time.
Seriously?
Mostly for commercials.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's, again, the difference between getting there and not getting there. It's kind of like the difference between insanity and genius. It's that line, that mental line, it's very, very, very thin. And true geniuses sometimes cross over. We look at some actors and we don't know whether they're going crazy or whether that's the role, because they can play that fine line and come back. There was a very famous Polish director who ran a workshop at Gower Studios, and I have my little Emmy portfolio.
Was this
script
Jerzy
by-
Kaminsky?
I can't remember his name, but he was very famous. And this is an interesting story for me. I told you, remember, I played mentally retarded people because of my brother. Well, one day in this workshop, the lesson was to create a character and make it as full and real as possible. And everybody kind of picked a character and tried it, and some worked, some didn't. And he put me on the stage, and for some reason I decided to be my brother. You're an actor, you know you have what they call the third eye. It's
Right.
supposed to watch you and protect you and keep you in frame and in consciousness and everything. I became my brother to the point where I lost complete control.
Wow.
I was flailing on the set, on the set. It was falling down. I couldn't talk. I became him to the point where I lost the third eye. Now, a couple of girls that I knew that were in the class, knew about my brother and later came up to me and said, "That was Jay, wasn't it?" And it was. But I was at the point where some actors go that far and never come back. They go nuts, or they get so mentally screwed up that they can't come back. You know, they said that was so true of who was married to Laurence Olivier, who did Streetcar Named Desire.
Oh yeah. Vivian Leigh.
Vivian
Vivian
Leigh.
Leigh. Vivian Leigh.
Vivian Leigh. not Lee. Lee.
Lee.
Yeah, Lee. Sorry.
Pronounced.
She played Blanche, and it affected her so much it took her a couple of years to get rid of the role. Anyway, I do it, and I finally collapse on the stage, and the director, the teacher, which you may have been his name.
Krasinski, or it might have been Grotowski, the Polish acting teacher.
It was either one of them. I can't remember. He came up to me and held me and brought me back.
Wow.
Because I was that far gone. The reason I bring that up is that there are actors who do that all the time. They cross that line all the time. I'm trying to think of one who was, he's such a big actor. Who was the one that was with Natalie Wood when she died?
Robert Wagner.
No, the other one.
Christopher Walken. Yeah.
Christopher Walken. If you watch his roles, sometimes you don't know whether he's really all there or not. He has that ability to play that fine line of insanity and genius, creativity, and that's very important, very important. And again, we kind of bring it back to me in a sense. I would love, from my mouth to God's ears, love to get any kind of a role that would allow me to push myself to that limit. It's never happened so far.
But you know what? If you're getting your toes back in, have you thought about going up to AFI? I mean, if you go up to AFI, one of the things I've done AFI shorts where the people either are directing a commercial later and they call you up because you were dependable and reliable on the shorts, or they're actually doing a feature and they bring you in for that. You know,
well, with my new agent, I'll certainly tell her to get on that. The truth of the matter is that I did do some AFI things early on. I also was on the dating game 3 times.
Were you really?
Oh, yeah. A different guy every time. You know?
Wow.
And so that's another hour of story.
Did you ever win in the dating game?
Yes.
Oh, you did.
But
was the chick? The chick was an actress too.
Oh, wait, that brings in an unbelievable story.
Please let on us.
John Badham was
The director, Mary Badham, his sister, starred as Scout in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Great. I remember that.
Wow.
I know that part. I know that part. But let me tell you, John Badham started as a casting director at Universal.
John Badham? We're talking
Yes.
the director-actor?
Absolutely.
I had no idea.
Okay, now I used to audition for him a lot of the time. He was on one of my dating games, and the girl picked me, not him. Now, let's go 10 years later. I am up for a role in a movie that Mel Brooks was going to do called a series called When Things Were Rotten.
When Things Were Rotten, starring Dick Gautier as Robin Hood.
Okay.
You know?
Now,
Henry Pollock played. Anyway, go on.
I was going to play Little John. Big beard. I played I keep running this thing. I play Little John. I play the guitar. I could have played the lute a little bit. Anyway, I go in.
Oh, no.
I go in on this interview after many interviews. And the night before the interview, Young Frankenstein opened in the theater. And there was a full-page ad in the back of Variety for Young Frankenstein. So I put it under my shirt, and I had it there. Now I go in, and little did I know that John Badham is going to be the director of the episode. So I don't see him. I don't really focus on him. I'm talking to Mel Brooks. So Mel Brooks says, okay, so what do you got to say for yourself? And I go, ba-da! And I rip open my shirt, and there's his Young Frankenstein Variety ad. He says, unbelievable, I love it. The moment I left, Badham said, it's either him or me. He would never left me off the hook because I beat him on the dating game. But it gets worse than that. It gets worse than that. I was hired to do a thing called War Games.
Oh, no. War Games was originally directed by the director of Beverly Hills Cop.
Martin Brest.
Yeah, Martin Brest.
Wait to hear this story. This is a great story.
They've been great so far.
I'm having real fun telling you.
We are too, thank you.
I would used to write postcards every time.
This is
For
great.
everything. Sometimes I write postcards when I wasn't doing nothing.
Now, would you write thank you notes on your editions or no? Or is
Not
it-
very much.
I know some people do that. I never
did that, as I remember.
Yeah, if they didn't
But
hire you, who
I would
cares?
write postcards. So I write a postcard, and I get to a casting woman whose name I can't remember, and if I did, I wouldn't bring it up anyway. She brings me into MGM. Now, I'm living in Calabasas. I drive all the way to MGM.
with your pumpkin festival of October, and you've got
Right.
you've got one of the greatest Denny's on Duncannon Road.
Right. I go all the way down there. She brings me into the office to read for a role, a small role that opens the opening sequence in the film. And she said, "Oh, I got your postcard. What are you doing?" And I said, "Nothing." She said, "What do you mean, nothing? Why'd you send me a postcard?" I said, "Because I'm doing nothing. I'm looking for work." She says, "Oh, that's ridiculous." So she says, "Here," and she throws me this page with 2 lines on it. She said, "Read it." All right. I'm dead already, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I pick up the script, I start, and
Go
the
down
phone-
swinging,
the-
baby.
The phone rings. She picks it up, answers the phone, puts it down. "Go ahead." Start again. Phone rings, she picks it up, puts it down. I said, "Will you do me a favor?" I said, "I know I'm not going to get this role, but will you have the professional courtesy to let me say my 2 lines and let me leave without getting interrupted?"
Wow.
Okay, now I leave. I know it's dead. But my postcards have gone out to everybody, including directors.
Oh no.
And one of the director is Marty Brest. He calls Marion Doherty,
the
which was a
casting director.
big-time casting
Biggest.
director, who has me in to read for him. Now, the other
Yeah.
sub-casting person doesn't know this. I come in, and she's sitting there, not Marion Doherty, and I, "Hi, Mr. Brett, how are you, blah. And she looks at me, she says, "Oh, you again?" And the director says, "Oh, you know him?" She said, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh, she's killing it, killing it." So I said, I'm going to try something really off the wall. I've got nothing to lose. She says, "Well, here's the script." I said, "I know the 2 lines." So I go to Marty Brest, and I decided to play it like I was the Godfather. And I grab him by the ears, and I say the 2 lines, which have nothing to do with what I'm doing characterization-wise, and I kiss him right on the mouth. Boom! He says, "God, what was that?" I got the role. Wow. Now,
Oh no.
guess,
stories, baby.
guess who's directing the show?
He cast
John Badham.
And he cast it. Marty
No,
Brest. No,
wait.
but Marty Brest cast it and then they replaced
Wait,
it.
now, let me tell you why. I'll tell you why. Marty Brest has the script, and he goes to Universal and says, "I'd like to do this script." And the line producer, who is not a big mucker, just a guy, sends it up, and they say, "Nah, too much money, too technical, forget it." So Marty Brest goes to Spielberg on the set, Amblin, on the lot, Amblin Productions, and shows it to, because he had done Dirty Old Men or one of those old things.
Going in Style
Yeah.
with George Burns.
So he was hot for the moment. He goes to Spielberg and says, "I'd like to direct this script. Would you like, I have this script. Let me get this straight. I'd like you
Spielberg
to,
might have gone to him because Walter Parks and Laurie McDonald, who wrote it, were head of Amblin, his production company.
so anyway, here's the story that I got. Okay, again, now,
Please.
I'm glad you can clarify this. He goes to Spielberg, and people said, "Sure, we'll do it." But the producer who had the script, who got Marty Brest, says, "Wait a minute, that's my script." And he said, "You mean to tell me you're letting him walk around try to pitch this script to me? Well, I'm going to take Amblin Productions off the lot. That's totally unprofessional." So they squelch that. He goes to Bagelman.
Oh, David Begelman.
Begelman at TriStar.
Yeah, the guy who did the whole Columbia scandal.
Right.
He was writing bad checks in Cliff
Right,
Robertson's
and he was the one that cashed Robertson's $10,000 residual check and said, "You'll never work in this town again."
And Robertson was the one who got punished. Yeah, Cliff Robertson, I did in one of his last interviews, told me how it destroyed his life.
Right. So here's the point. He goes there, and they just decide to do the film. Marty Brest is completely screwed out of it. And who's doing the movie? John
Badham.
Now,
nemesis.
here's how they got rid of Marty Brest. They start the picture. They're up in Bellevue, Washington.
Yes.
And they fire the GP. They fire the assistant directors. They fire all of his team.
Wow.
And in one day, he's 3 days behind.
Because they got rid of his whole team.
They got rid of his whole team. So they go to MGM, TriStar MGM or something, and say, guy doesn't know what he's doing. And they fire him. They hire John Badham. Now, I don't know about that, except I've come back. I've done my 3 days, which are completely shot. And I'm invited. I'm sent a script. The script has a black cover. You can't see anything on it because it's all black. I've never had a script with a black cover in my life.
They don't want you to be able to copy it. That's
I don't know what the hell it is. So I go to meet the director, the new director.
Oh, no.
And guess who it is?
John Badham.
That guy.
Now, around the room are all the pictures of the people in the show, except me. Mine's missing. Now, he says, "Hi." I say, "Hi." He said, "How'd you like your trip?" I said, "What trip?" He says,
"Oh, no. Was
your
he
trip,
that petty?
Your trip to Vegas."
Dating
no, I'm saying, wait a minute. My wife's a dancer in Vegas. We live in Vegas. I said, "Well, I go to Vegas all the time." He says, no. The dating game trip. Our trip was to Vegas.
He remembered it all.
I said, "Oh, it was great. It was a great time." He said, "Terrific." And I said, "Is that?" He said, "That's all we have to talk about, my man." So I leave. Now I get the script with the black cover, and I'm looking for my part. It's not there.
Wow.
It's not there. So I call my manager and say, "I've got the script. I'm supposedly in this movie, but my part's not there." He said, "Let me find out." He calls. He said, "Oh, they've changed your part." He said, "Great. New part, new wardrobe, new negotiation. Not a problem." It's Sergeant Small. So I look at the script. I don't say a word. I stand by a door.
He made you an extra.
He made me an extra.
Wow.
Now, I tell my manager, "I'm not going to do this." Yeah. He says, "It's okay. It's, you got paid. They owe you 3 days. And by the way, the person who cut the check for the 3 days at the end of the year was fired. I am not in the I'm not billed in the movie. Screen Actors Guild says even if you're cut out of the picture, your billing should remain.
Yeah.
I'm not in the billing, but I do get residuals, 10 cents, 12 cents, whatever, right now, all these years later."
Wow.
Anyway.
That's really petty.
Anyway, wait, it gets better. So I get called for wardrobe. I don't go. They call me again. I don't go. Because if you go to wardrobe, it's tantamount to accepting the role, even if you haven't negotiated it.
Wow.
So I don't go. They then fire me off the picture because I don't go. Now, that's how far John Badham. Now, was John Badham the director when Vic Morrow lost his head in that show?
No, that was another. John Landis had directed that. The same.
John Landis,
but the same studio. So.
Right, John Landis. So anyway, that was the Badham story, and it's
he was doing Blue Thunder around then.
It ties into you knowing Robertson, so I know some of this stuff is valid.
The Robertson stuff. Go on. I'm sorry.
No, that's it. Begelman tried to cash his check, and Robertson went and said, you give me my money." He said, "You'll never get it, and you'll never work." He said, "I worked before you, and I'll work after you. But now you tell me it caused the end."
Yeah, but Cliff Robertson told me it put his career in deep freeze and it took years to get out of it.
That?
But one of the happy ending of that story is that after they did that, Columbia became Sony.
Right.
And Sony made Sam Raimi, the director, also from Michigan, hired Cliff Robertson to play Uncle Ben in Spider-Man, and he found a reason to put Cliff Robertson in Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3. So the highest grossing film of Cliff Robertson's career, Spider-Man, is by the same studio that actively tried to kill him.
Wow.
You know, and Robertson said, Robertson told Raimi, you've changed my life. You know, you made me feel differently about Sony.
Well, there's the irony of it too. All we're trying to do is do a job. Mm-hmm. All we're trying to do is, as a good actor, bring empathy and understanding to the role so people can feel what we feel and what the character or what the writer felt. Okay. Mm-hmm. Politics are becoming more and more involved with with arts, and the position you take, how you slap somebody on the can, say hello. I mean, now you can be arrested and put in jail or your career ruined. There's so many things that take us away from our craft and our job, which is just to go on camera and be as real and as intimate as we can be, so the camera can look at us and see us.
That's true. And speaking of which, let's talk about your book, Bitch, Pitch, and Get Rich.
Let me share you that. That title, the subtitle is Success at the Tip of Your Tongue. And what it says is that everybody bitches about everything.
Oh, yeah.
But few people do anything about it. What this book says that if you bitch about something, you owe it to your loved ones and yourself to pitch a better idea. And even if the idea fails, you will enrich yourself. You'll get involved with life. You may make some money, but you're certainly going to be more involved. And what this book is about friendship. It's about standing on your own feet and learning to speak up, improving your voice, your vocabulary, your memory, allowing yourself to express your involvement with life and things you care about. And we've got to the point in this technical society where we text each other across a table. We don't even talk to each other anymore.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I believe that we're still should be one-on-one. That people looking at each other's eyes and saying, I love you, I hate you, but dialogue.
Yes.
So this book gives people little simple lessons. There are no new life lessons, but I use my show business stories to highlight life lessons to improve their vocabulary. And one of the ways it happened was that I taught for a while for after school classes. Like I had a class called Acting for Non-Actors.
Oh, I like that.
And we had people in other fields of endeavor come to this class, older people who had never been a performer. And one of them was a young attorney who could write great briefs and do all the legwork, but when she stood up to present her case, she stumbled and was shy and mixed her words up, and it was a failure. And she came to this class, and one of the days we were talking, and what do they do? And I heard from the scuttlebutt that this was her problem. So I asked the class quickly to stand up and say something about something. And I went around the room, and when I got to her, she stood up. I said, sit down. And then I went to somebody else, and I went to her. She got up. I said, sit down. And then went to the third time, she said, don't you tell me to sit down. I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. Everybody broke into tears, applauded. She broke through.
She didn't even realize
That's great.
And that is not about humanity, but it's about what we try to do as actors. We have to try to break through the mundane, can I get the box, boss?
Right.
And become a character.
It's that nosy girl reporter again.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
You've got your vocabulary is.
What did you do on Happy Days?
Man,
Oh.
awesome.
Talk about Happy Days.
Happy Days. Let me tell you this. Another big dumb cluck, but the guy who was with me had one line, and it took like 14 takes to get the one line. Now, one of the things we can do if we have fun and a little courage and a little trust in ourselves as performers, we can ad lib. Okay? So he's supposed to show me an ID to let him get into the strip show, but I can't remember the character.
Oh, you did the episode where Fonzie almost marries the stripper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And he tries to go in there, and he's got a phony ID. And I had to stop him and say, "Let me see your ID." And I look at it. And I said, "Well, tell me when you were born, quick." And he goes, 41? He said, "Oh, that's pretty close." And I give him the card. And that little moment was fun. And that's the thing that I enjoyed doing, because not all bad guys have to be murderers and rapists and pillagers. We can be funny bad guys as well. I did a Dick Van Dyke show where I played a funny guy, a big, bad, funny guy.
Tell me about your adventure on Kung Fu.
Yeah, give us the
David Carradine.
Hey, speaking of crazy celebrity stories,
That was
give
my
us the
favorite
best
show
David
when I was
Carradine
a
I don't know
kid.
how much time we bought, but he's nuts. Well, he was nuts. He was absolutely nuts. I had a Bentley, an old Bentley. I tried Jaguars and Bentleys. I just love imported cars. And I had brought this Bentley on, and someone in one of the days I was there took a diamond ring and put a big V in the windshield. That's another story. But anyway, Carradine would, in the midst of shooting, decide to meditate. And he'd go sit on a rock and go, and everybody sat around waiting for him to get done. And one of the best roles I had was at Kung Fu. I played Swamper Gilchrist, and I had a Gatling gun. It's a great clip. In fact, it's on my website. My wife just created a Lee Paul professional website.
Wow.
And I think that Kung Fu clip is in that website, because she knows all this stuff. I didn't know all this stuff. Wow. But the point is that, so one day we're there, and my wife comes on the set, and he's playing around. He's picking up rocks with his feet, and he threw a rock at her. Well, at me, maybe, but just missed her. And I said to myself, the guy's unhinged.
and his Kung Fu.
And didn't he kill himself?
Yeah, autoerotic asphyxiation.
Right.
He might have had help.
Wow.
But everybody who's worked with him, the stories are always the same. But I did one of his last interviews, and I said to him, because Universal and the big studios, when you walk off a show, they sue you back to the Stone Age. Basically, they didn't sue him, he told me, because they were afraid of what he would do if they tried to sue him. You know, and he was basically, like you said, every story involved the show. The show, I'm amazed it syndicates at all, because he walked off like 2.5, 3 seasons. He left before they were syndicatable.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But you know, that just brings this again, acting premise. What does it take to be a star? It takes that eccentricity, that differentness that sets you apart. He became the star because of all these amalgam of all the complexes of his ego and his personality that all became him. And he was a good enough actor to channel it into the role. And maybe other people who would try to channel it and not be as effective. So again, he was crazy, and he did kill himself, and I'm still alive, thank God.
Amen to that.
But the truth is, he got there. And that's what we try to do. We try to get there. Now, do I want fame and fortune? Shit, yes. Do I want to die as an actor rather than doing something else? Of course. And that's why I'm looking forward to this resurgence, you know.
I'm telling you, there are a lot of senior roles. I think you should look into that.
Well,
you know?
and me both.
Right,
Right, you know. I mean,
I'm still doing Tall Thugs, but yeah.
how are we doing time?
We got
7 minutes.
We have 5 minutes left of the
5
show.
minutes, sorry.
Okay, so let me just sum up the book. So anyone who wants to can go to Amazon online and get the book for free. I mean, not for free, but they can read read a free chapter.
Yeah, you're doing it wrong if you're giving it away for free, baby.
Yeah, because if you give it away for free, they don't think it's worthless. But there's something in that book for everybody at every level of education, every level of acceptance, every level of greatness, small, large or small. There's something, a kernel in that book that will make you think about things, and worth the $9 that they discounted on the.
I love discounts. Yes.
Lee Paul.
Wow. Yeah.
Rich,
No.
Rich, Rich,
Beautiful.
Rich.
Wow.
Awesome. Man, we want to thank you for
You
showing
were
up on our show.
fantastic, Lee. Thank you so
It
much
was
for the
awesome.
stories.
Great stories. Great vocabulary.
You got to come back
We're
and tell
learning
us more.
words.
Well, there's a lot more to tell. I mean, the more questions you ask me, the more stories I have. I hope I haven't dominated the time. to
No,
the point where-
well, you should. It's your show today. You know what I mean? I mean, Steve Joyner, he texted me to say hi for him. you know?
Okay, hi, Steve.
Thank you, Steve, for hooking us up with such a great,
Yeah, great guest.
great personality, man.
All I need now is to get this YouTube to my agent so she knows.
By the way, exactly. Give us where people can follow your career. You mentioned your wife put something up for you.
Right, it's Lee Paul. It's on. I don't know you do Facebook that well, but supposedly you can just look up Lee Paul, and there's a professional page, and of course you can Google me and you can go to imdb.com and see a lot of the shows and a lot of the material.
Yeah.
The Adventures of Lee Paul. What's next for you, Lee? What do you have coming up?
Well, right now, nothing. Well, that's the fact. The fact is, Steve Joyner has lined up a number of phone interviews across the country, and I just got a new demo that's online, and new photos showing my actual age, range 60 to 71, and hopefully we're going to find some parts for me to go out and read for. I don't expect anybody to hand me anything, because most of the people that I work with are either retired or
They're
dead.
gone.
Or gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, what about you also did Scream of the Wolf, this kind of cool TV movie where I think Clint Walker and Peter Graves are hunting down what they think is a werewolf.
Oh, I love Clint Walker.
What do you remember about doing that?
I've got a story to sum up time-wise and Jaguar-wise. Okay, I have a car, old Jag. I'm on my way to the interview, and it blows up.
Oh,
and I get to the interview, and I'm completely disheveled. I'm sweaty. I'm dirty. I was trying to get the car to work. I'm late, and I apologize. What's going on? And I'm so disheveled and so mad about what's going on. I got cast in the role because I'm supposed to be this guy that's crazed because they're going to kill me.
Right.
So it kind of worked out, and it was a summation of, have 2 Jaguars in your life, not 1.
This is true. You've been a delight. Thank you for the stories, and wow.
I can't wait to see it myself. I don't know where the cameras are, so I hope I didn't know
right there, right here.
There, we got
You're
this
surrounded
one
by
here.
Wow.
and there's one more.
Yeah, we'll get Steve will help us with
Steve
this.
will help you with
Okay.
it. Yeah,
We
yeah.
can't function without the guy,
No, we cannot. You know what I mean? But yeah, look into have your agent look into AFI. You know what I mean? That AFI is great for I've done a lot of thugs for them and stuff. You know what I mean?
You're
cops.
such a sweet-looking man. I don't understand it.
You have to turn it on a little better. Yeah. I get that a lot, which is unfortunate. But they're always looking for a mice and men type thing and all
Right.
this. And, well, you know that with
Of
your
course,
height.
of course.
They're always looking
Yeah.
for you know what I mean? The giant
And
who's
you keep
mildly
seeing-
threatening can't open a door.
And you keep seeing the same people for the same roles at auditions.
That's what I was curious about, the tall guys of your era you were auditioning against.
Denny Miller was another one, but I don't remember them all. It's hard for me to remember all the shows. In fact, a show just came on that I don't have billing on for some strange reason. I guest starred and with William Smith.
Big Bill Smith.
Yeah, and so the point is that
Not doing well now, unfortunately. But yeah,
well, we're all struggling.
old timers.
All timers.
Yeah.
Comes with the territory.
There you go. Beats
right.
the alternative.
Thank you.
Lee, thank you so much.
All right,
Appreciate it.
you can take your headphones off now,
Okay.
gentlemen.
We are officially off the air, boys.
And let's take a promo picture that
Oh, yeah.
we post on Facebook. That we
And you gotta sign our book
do
for
a
us.
photo with our guest.
Yeah. Jeff, watch out for the camera when you come through here. Let me move it out of the way. Bernard, put it on the chairs.
So he comes and goes then, huh?
Was his station, so yeah.
It's his station.
He took over. The last guy was a little too acerbic. Bernard has Bernard's a big vision kind of guy, and I think I've liked everything he's been doing.
He told me to turn this off right here. What do I do?
Turn it off.
He said there was a little dot on the. There was a little red dot. Get the picture back up. I don't know how you did that.
I think we. There we go. I guess it's off now. He does everything automatic. All that modern technology stuff.
It's
and we're-
all